All right, now we're pleased to welcome in Clay Helton, head coach of the USC Trojans. Clay, welcome to the 24/7 Sports Social Distance Chat.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I know head coaches are busy, but do you have any downtime right now? Do you got any Netflix or Hulu recommendations for us?
I've been watching a lot of movies lately. I usually do it over the weekend. I'm pretty busy during the week, but I did watch a good one this past weekend with Denzel Washington and Chris Pratt, The Magnificent Seven. So I'm partial to a good western, and that was an exceptional movie.
Nice. There you go. So Clay, this has been a challenging time for a lot of head coaches. What are some of the challenges that y'all have experienced with trying to manage your team, on a digital basis, and how have you overcome those?
Yeah, we've taken a philosophy of making the number one priority in what we're doing right now, the health and safety of our student athletes. That's priority number one, and then making sure that they have the services that they need to continue to function at a very high level as a student athlete. So, whether it is health and medicine, doing wellness checks, whether it is, consulting as strengthening with our strength and conditioning staff, being able to have those 4 hours worth of position meetings to be able to keep our players mentally engaged, to be able to still give academic service tutorials, being able to check in with their counselors and their learning specialists. So that's been our number one goal, is to be able to make consistent, constant communication on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, in every aspect of their life, so they can function very highly as a student athlete.
Absolutely. You mentioned working out. Are you able, as a Pac-12 team, to send weights and protein and all that kind of stuff to kids? I know some conferences have said
Mhm.
no, some have said
Mhm.
yes. Where does USC and the Pac-12 stand on that?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. Again, we want to be able to help our student athletes get through this, and very thankful to USC for the resources that it has, and its priority to take care of the student athletes as well as all of our students. So we have been able to send out equipment, strength and conditioning equipment, whether it's bands, medicine ball, jump rope, so they can continue to work from home safely. And we're asking each and every one of our student athletes stay at home, practice social distancing. So we've been able to give them those strength and conditioning. We've been able to send some extra nutrition on a weekly basis to be able to make sure that their calorie intake is still in place while they're at home. It's probably a little bit different than what they usually get at the university and the amount of food that they're getting. So to be able to allow that to happen, very thankful to our administration, Mike Bone, our athletic director, as well as Dr. Carol Folt, to allow this to happen, to take care of our student athletes.
Absolutely. Clay, on 24/7 Sports, we recently wrote an article
Mhm.
recognizing the schools that got the most so far out of their 2019 class, and I was pretty impressed
Mhm.
by just the depth of the
Mhm.
contributions which USC got from its 2019 class.
Mhm.
Who are some of those guys that maybe surprised you? You end up playing them a whole lot of
Mhm.
snaps, and you got a lot out of them
Mhm.
that maybe this time last year you weren't quite sure you're going to need them or that you'd be able to get
Mhm.
that much out of them.
Yeah, three kids really come to mind, and we've had some great fortune in my 10 years here of being able to play freshmen and then come out and be freshman All-Americans. I remember Robert Woods and Marquise Lee and Nelson Aguilar, Adoree Jackson, Juju Smith-Schuster, those guys that really stepped on the scene as freshmen. And last year was no exception. I think of one I wasn't anticipating it happen. I never anticipate you losing your starting quarterback in the first game of the first half, but Keenan Slovis comes to mind, and what he was able to accomplish in his freshman year, from his completion percentage to his production. And as he grew, our team grew and got stronger and stronger. And you look at what we were able to do down the stretch of that season, he was a huge part of that. I think Drake Jackson on the other side of the ball, his edge rush that he provided us as a true freshman. I mean, the day one he stepped on campus, everybody went, "Whoa, that's a special dude right there." And his future is so bright here. And then I think of a guy that's getting ready, I think, to explode on the scene, and you saw it late last season. Drake London. You're talking about a 6'5" target at our inside receiver position, about 220 pounds. He's a physical presence, kind of like Michael Pittman was for us last year. And you saw us do some amazing things with him. Go back to the UCLA game where we had 4 receivers all over 100 yards and a 100-yard running back. And Drake was one of those receivers as a true freshman. Contribute in a huge way. And so those 3 really come out to mind. There was others. We played a lot of freshmen. This was an extremely young team last year. We only had 7 scholarship seniors on the entire team. And these guys are all coming back. So we're looking forward to the opportunity when we do get the chance, and it is safe to get back out there, to get those young people back out there and watch them play.
And I think that brings such a unique element to that air raid offense with having the size in the slot. You know, traditionally we kind of think of the little smaller, shiftier slot guy, but in your smash concepts, and you got to be really excited about the second full year under offensive coordinator Graham Harrell and what they can do with just the guys knowing the system more.
Yeah, this system is so exciting. I think it is the future of not only college football, but you look at the NFL. You look at the Arizona Cardinals, and all of a sudden Coach Kingsbury goes there and you've got the NFL Rookie of the Year at the quarterback position. You look at some of the things that we're doing. We study the Kansas City Chiefs and bring some of those to this system. I think Graham's done an amazing job, taking what he has known basically his entire college and professional career and being able to adapt. I watched him adapt and add that running game when he was at North Texas, to be able to put some really inventive fundamentals and techniques to that system. That he's kind of formed his own system, and kids are seeing that. I mean, when you look at what was going on towards the end of the season last year, when the quarterback finally the light clicked on, our young kids really got a feel for the system. And Graham even said, he goes, "Coach, I can't wait to show you what happens when you go from year 1 to year 2. These kids got it now, and it's going to be so fun to be able to watch them progress within it."
Absolutely. So you mentioned the kids seeing that. Obviously, recruiting is something USC's long been really good at. We are seeing a little bit of an exodus from the West Coast to just schools across the country. Some of the 4 and 5 stars there on the West Coast in recent years. What would you attribute that to? Is it the Pac-12 not making the playoff as much, or the Pac-12 network's lack of carriage throughout the country, so the exposure is a little bit less? Are you able to pinpoint something there?
Well, you got to remember, there's a couple states per capita that have a lot of great players, and you're only able to sign 25 a year. Last year, we were only able to sign 13. It was a smaller class because of the lesser attrition. But people always ask me, "Hey, Coach, how did you go get a Leonard Williams out of Florida, a first-round draft pick, or a Nelson Aguilar out of Florida, a Ronald Jones out of Texas?" Well, when you look at the states of California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, there's so many athletes per capita that naturally some of them are going to leave. We did a study here one time just looking from Fresno down to Los Angeles, and on average per year, there's 123 Power 5 athletes that are just in that range, just in that little geographic niche right there. So when you do have a year where you're only able to sign 13, there are going to be some that go. And, there are good universities around the country. We've been able to go to Texas and Florida to be able to acquire. Our West Coast student athletes obviously are a priority for us. We want to be able to acquire as many as we can, but to be able to go to Texas and Florida and get that first round draft pick like a Ronald Jones, Nelson Aguilar, Leonard Williams, those type of individuals, man, that's advantageous. And other schools do that too. They'll come out to the West Coast and try their luck, and we'll go to Texas, Florida, and Georgia, and we'll do that too. We have an amazing product right now that I think kids are really buying into. A very young, talented team that they want to play with, systems that are in place both offensively and defensively that are exciting, attacking. You've got a great product in USC, one of the top academic private schools in the world, and obviously the most NFL draft picks in the history of the game. Over a 25-year tradition, 125-year tradition of excellence. So it's a great place to be able to come to. Kids see that. And right now we've gotten a ton of great feedback through the spring. Hopefully it will continue and pay off for us as we get closer to signing.
Clay Helton with the excellent segue there. You mentioned the most draft picks in the history of the NFL draft. Let's make you, just for a second here, you're the GM of the New York Jets. They have quarterback Sam Darnold, real promising QB there. In New York. Who are you picking to try and help him out there on that offense?
Well, they did a good job last year, I think, acquiring some offensive linemen that really did a nice job of protecting Sam a little bit more than in year one. I think that on the outside, offensively, a couple weapons, hopefully they'll garner for Sam. This is probably one of the strongest receiver classes that we've seen, in recent years. So I would anticipate them going to grab a receiver or two in this draft to be able to help offensively.
All right, all you fantasy football fans out there, Clay Helton had it first. They're going to get a receiver for Sam Darnold. So y'all made a change this year on the defensive side of the ball, bringing in Todd Orlando, who had a lot of successful years, both at Houston and at Texas. Why was Todd a fit for your program and for your roster?
Well, one is energy and his enthusiasm and his knowledge of his system just stood out. Having gone against Coach 3 times in my career and having 3 of the most frustrating days ever. I remember having Sam Darnold and playing in the Coliseum and having to go to double overtime to win a game against Coach, and me and Sam were walking off going, gosh, that was a hard, frustrating day. Coach's system is extremely aggressive, attacking from all areas. The ability to use base, nickel, dime packages, adapts based on offensive personnel, and just the infectiousness of the energy that he brings and how his players love him. He's a player's coach. I mean, just from the second he walked on campus as he went through the spring, it was really neat to see the relationships that he built with our players. It's exciting. We got one spring practice. And I think he was the hardest working man on the field that day. It was really fun to watch him and to see how special a coach he is. And if you remember, probably 2 years ago, I couldn't even have made this happen to be able to get him out to California. And as soon as the change was made at Texas, I was like, wow, that is a terrific football coach. And to be able to have the chance maybe to acquire Coach Orlando would be something special. He's been successful over decades based on what he's done. And to be able to get him out to California has been a slam dunk for us.
And of course, Texas had some really poor injury luck last year in the secondary, which contributed to maybe a little bit of their down numbers. But as you mentioned, prior to that, he had really good performances. Clay, how important is it for you to pair the style of defense with the style of offense? For instance, Todd Orlando is known for a lot of negative plays, a lot of turnovers. The other side of that is that occasionally the big play will be allowed and maybe a quick scoring drive. But with the offense you run, y'all are going to be willing to take that trade-off because you're going to get the ball back more, right?
Yeah, no question. When you look at the opportunities that Coach Orlando and that defense provides, one for you to get the ball back from turnovers, from 3 and outs, from negative yardage plays, we just saw it as what our philosophy is: always on the attack, always aggressive, just like we are offensively within Coach Harrell's system. Fast tempo, up pace, always attacking. So it fits our philosophy of how we want to play the game here at USC. Fast-paced, aggressive, attacking in each and every phase, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. Bringing Coach Snyder in from K-State, who's his 26-year experience at K-State, what he's been able to do there. So in all 3 phases, we've been able to create this aggressive attacking style that our players just absolutely love and are feeding off of.
So if you go into a game and I say, hey, Clay, y'all are going to get 16 possessions each in this game, you're like, let's go. Yeah, we're down for it.
Yeah, that's our nature. Is I really think that having the opportunity to get the ball in the offense's hands is going to produce some great things. And you look at just from where we were in 2018 to the 2019 season and the production that we had offensively within the system. Obviously, you get more opportunities for that system, more points are going to go on the board.
Absolutely. Coach, really appreciate you being on here with us today. I'll get you out of here on this one. So you opened with Alabama this year. It's a game that has to be at the forefront of all your players' minds. You opened with Alabama several years ago. It didn't go quite as well. What's some knowledge you can impart just from playing Nick Saban and that team to your guys this time around to help keep them focused?
Well, you know, you're playing an extremely well coached team. You know, Coach Saban has been a family friend for a long time and one of those guys that we all respect within the profession, the best of the best. And you have to walk in there with a team that has emotional intelligence. You know, and what I mean by that is you get the opportunity to play Alabama. Obviously, emotions are going to be high. You have to be able to control those emotions and do your job on a consistent basis, down after down after down, because coach is going to do the same with his team. And you know, you're going to have to play your best game. You're going to have to be fundamentally sound each and every down, and don't let emotion come into play.
Absolutely. Clay Helton, appreciate you joining us here
Mhm.
on the 24/7 Sports Social Distance Chat.